Cool.
All right. Hi, Mr. Wolfson. Thank you for coming to our class today. Really appreciate it. We're all excited to have you as a guest, and I think this should be a lot of fun. We have spent a lot of time in this class talking about law and how laws are made, and good laws and bad laws. And we thought it would be good to have an expert here on the lawmaking process. And so they're generally familiar with your biography, but if you could introduce yourself to everyone, that would be great.
Sure. So my name's Len Wolfson, and I am from Stamford, Connecticut, like Seth, which is relevant here because I first came to Washington to work for my hometown congressman, a gentleman by the name of Chris Shays. He was in office from 87 to 08. So if you haven't heard of him, that's all right. He's been out of office for more than a decade, but he was a moderate Republican, sort of one of the last of a dying breed of moderate Republicans from New England. From there, I worked at HUD in 2 administrations, and I've also been a lobbyist for the Mortgage Bankers Association. And currently, I am a partner at a boutique lobbying firm called Federal Hall.
All right, and I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with the term HUD stands for what?
HUD stands for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It is one of the cabinet level departments.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to go down. We have a lot of great questions here, and we'll see. Hopefully, we can get through them all. And sometimes multiple people ask similar questions, so I combined them into one. So the first question from Daniela: what does a lobbyist do?
That is a great question. I get that all the time, including from my own parents still. But very simply, a lobbyist represents someone in front of the government, and so advises them on strategically on how to approach the government, how to think about policy issues, and then actually implements those strategies and talks to lawmakers, to their staff, to the federal agencies, seeking, whatever position, whatever changes in our case, the client wants.
All right. Okay. So then there were a lot of people are interested in your career, just sort of how this all worked. When and why did you become a lobbyist? How do you know that was what you wanted to do? And this came from Daniela, Milena, Gerald, and Edgar. Go ahead.
No, that's a great question. I don't think too many people know early on that their calling is to be a lobbyist. But it's a natural for many people. It's a natural transition from working in government, and I had spent probably about a dozen years working first for the congressman I mentioned, and then for HUD, just very candidly, at some point when you get tired of government, you go to the other side, and the other side is working with government, advocating for the many interests who have business before the government.
All right, that's interesting. So were you always interested in laws and government since you were little? Like you said, you went right and worked with
I got the political bug pretty early on. So was really interested in politics, volunteered on some campaigns. So I did know after college that I wanted to move to Washington, work for Congress. That was the easier part. I don't think I could have predicted back then kind of the way the rest of my career would go.
What was your, so that was Jasmine's question. Then we have a bunch of other questions here. Like what was your undergraduate major, and what did you have to get a degree or anything to get the job that you have? Or?
So it's a funny question, and here's why. Naturally, my major was political science. I actually had a double major, political science and history, but what's so interesting about poli-sci is that I don't think I've ever used anything I learned in any of my political science classes. I think I learned more in just my first 6 weeks as an intern on Capitol Hill than I did in college. Not to suggest that those aren't, that we didn't learn interesting things about politics theoretically, but none of it was practical. So in terms of how Congress actually works, you learn that by actually working on the Hill.
And so this is my question that I'm kind of now thinking it through. So what you're saying is probably so it has a very bad connotation that people talk about, how people go always from the government to lobbying. It comes across as very shady because you're the insider and then you're using your power, whatever. But there's also like a good legitimate reason for it, because you know about government because you worked in the government so much, and there's nobody else who hasn't worked in the government who has that knowledge that would be useful as a lobbyist. Is that pretty much true?
That's right. We have that expertise. I mean, look, there are two things that are valuable to people. One is the expertise, another is the relationships. I think the relationships sometimes get a bit of a bad rap, but the expertise is something that you develop, and it's a pretty limited skill set. Not a lot of people really understand day to day how Congress works, and I would say that is probably the biggest value to our clients.
All right, great. Now we're taking a quick break. I got a lot of personal questions about you that I need to ask you. All right. So Julissa wants to know, what college did you graduate from?
I went to the finest school in the state of Connecticut, the University of Connecticut.
All right.
Yeah. That was a subtle dig at Seth, who went to Yale.
All right. No, we don't have to explain everything. Danielle and Josh want to know, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food. Oh my goodness. That's such a I'm a foodie. I love so many different things. I love Vietnamese.
We ask the tough questions here, Mr. Wolfson.
That's right. I love Vietnamese food. I love Italian food. Those are probably my two favorites.
All right. Edgar wants to know, do you like football? And if so, what team?
I am a fan of the New York Giants, who are playing tonight and shockingly are 2-0. Even more shockingly is that I know that they're 2-0 because I have sort of tuned them out. I don't watch as much football as I used to.
All right. Jasmine and Riham want to know your favorite color.
My favorite color is orange.
Orange.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
You're full of surprises, Mr. Wolfson. Celia wants to know, what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show all time is it's got to be Seinfeld. I mean, I still come home from work and will turn on a Seinfeld rerun. So
that's a classic. All right. Raymond wants to know, what was the album you liked the most when you were younger?
The album I liked the most when I was younger. I was a classic rock fan. Led Zeppelin 4 comes to mind.
Led Zeppelin 4. If these kids don't know Led Zeppelin 4, I'll play it for them in class so they can get some culture.
Yeah. And it wasn't actually called Led Zeppelin 4. It's just what people called it because it had no name.
Right. That is true. It was fourth. It wasn't totally random. Yeah. Okay. Josh wants to know, what do you like to do with your free time?
I like to cycle, pretty avid, went earlier today, cycling and traveling. Those are my two favorite things.
All right. So this is from Derek. How important would you say school is? Is it true that you got a D in history your senior year of high school and almost did not graduate?
I don't remember getting a D in history, although it's entirely possible. it's French that I did
Oh,
really
French,
well.
maybe.
Yeah, French. Yeah.
But how important do you think that school is to just in general to your life and what you've accomplished in your life?
I think it's extremely important. I think we went to a really good public school, so I feel like I was fortunate in in that sense, and got a good education. And you know, the colleges you go to, I mean, some schools are better than others, but it's what you make of it. So you know, I made the most of going to UConn, and
That's good advice. We have seniors in the class who are going to be going to college next year. They need your guidance. All right. Derek also wanted to know, what are some things that you think that people should be doing to stay informed as they grow into adults?
You know, I've always thought that reading the newspaper is as important as anything else. You know, I give that advice with a grain of salt, because I have found the media to be much more biased than it was in previous years, but it's still the best way to stay informed is to read the paper every day.
All right. I appreciate it. Okay. And I have not been keeping track of time. I know that you have to stop at some time. So you'll let me know.
If it's okay with you, can we just pause for a minute?
This would be a good time to break. We're done with the personal questions and then back to business.
Fantastic. So we'll pause for a moment. I'll be right back.
All right. Sounds good.